Hi, welcome my channel. Today is a shocking story of betrayal and an epic comeback. From heartbreak to sweet revenge. The ending will blow your mind. Stay till the end to find out the truth. Emily Carter stared at her phone, rereading the message from her husband, Daniel, for the third time. Hey babe, finally made it to the campsite. No cell service soon, but wanted to say I love you. The mountains are incredible. I needed this escape. His words were sweet, supportive, exactly what anyone would expect from a loving husband on a much-needed solo retreat. Emily almost believed them, almost, but before she could decide how to respond, the glass door to her sleek downtown Seattle office burst open and Maya Reynolds, her closest friend and colleague, rushed in, her face pale and her tablet clutched tightly in her hand. Emily, you need to see this. Right now, Maya said breathlessly, sliding the screen in front of her. Confused, Emily leaned forward, and her heart seemed to stop when she saw the images. There, on a sun-drenched beach in Maui, was Daniel, unmistakable with his signature aviator sunglasses, lounging beside his assistant, Sophia Blake, sipping cocktails, her hand casually resting on his chest. More photos followed, romantic dinners by the ocean, sunset walks along the shore, and one particularly intimate shot of Daniel leaning in to kiss Sophia. Captioned, "No more hiding. Finally together." Emily blinked at the screen, her mind racing as though trying to process the images and Daniel's message simultaneously. Just this morning, he had kissed her goodbye, suitcase slung over his shoulder, promising to find peace on a solo hiking retreat to clear his mind from work stress. And now this? Emily, I'm so sorry. I didn't know how to tell you, Maya whispered, her voice breaking through the haze of betrayal. But Emily, ever the calm strategist, took a deep breath and sat back in her chair, her sharp mind already shifting from shock to calculation. Her 8-year marriage, the man she had built her life around, was not just crumbling, it had already been destroyed. She just hadn't known it yet. As Maya sat quietly, Emily's thoughts flashed through a mental reel of the past few months, the sudden, late nights at the office, the work trips that always seemed oddly timed, the gym membership Daniel never used, and the increased secrecy around his phone and laptop, all dismissed as overthinking at the time. God, how could I have been so blind? She thought, her stomach tightening, but Emily knew better than to let emotion rule her next move. Her career as a top financial analyst had taught her the power of patience and precision, the importance of collecting evidence before striking. She reached for her notebook, flipping to a clean page as her mind clicked into gear. I need to know everything, Emily said firmly, looking up at Maya. Every post, every detail you found. I want screenshots of everything. Timestamped. As Maya began forwarding the incriminating posts and messages, Emily's phone buzzed again, another message from Daniel. This time with a blurry photo of a tent pitched by a lake. Clearly pulled from the internet. A generic camping scene she recognized from stock images. Stars are amazing out here. Miss you, M. A hollow laugh escaped her lips. The audacity, the careful, curated lie meant to cover his tracks. But he had underestimated her. Daniel still thought of her as just his wife, someone waiting at home. Naive and unsuspecting, he had forgotten Emily Carter was a woman who made a career of following money trails and exposing fraud for billion-dollar corporations. Well, Emily said, her voice calm but cold. If he wants to play games, I'll play, but I don't lose. She looked up at Maya, her eyes now sharp and focused. Daniel has no idea that by taking this trip, by letting Sophia post all this garbage online, he's handed me everything I need to bury him. She stood, moving to her window overlooking the Seattle skyline, watching the clouds roll over Puget Sound. There would be no emotional outburst, no screaming phone call. Instead, there would be strategy, precision, and ultimately, destruction. Call my lawyer, Emily said without turning around. It's time to show Daniel exactly who he underestimated. By the time Daniel's next casual, camping, text came through, another fake photo of a lake under the stars, Emily Carter was already several steps ahead. Sitting in her home office, surrounded by open financial statements and glowing laptop screens, she began dissecting their joint accounts with the precision that had earned her a reputation as one of Seattle's sharpest financial analysts. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Eyes narrowed as transaction after transaction appeared, each more damning than the last. Luxury jewelry purchases she had never received. First-class plane tickets to Maui. Dinners at five-star restaurants. And hotel charges in cities where Daniel had claimed to be in client meetings. It was worse than she imagined. She found transfers to an offshore account she never knew existed, hidden behind a web of shell companies, totaling over $100 siphoned away from their shared life. She leaned back, her heart pounding, realizing this wasn't just an affair, it was financial betrayal on a scale that could destroy them both if she didn't act quickly. But Emily wasn't done. She called Maya Reynolds, her trusted friend, and together they pored over Sophia Blake's social media profiles, uncovering a treasure trove of evidence. Sophia, young and careless, had documented nearly every step of their affair. Instagram stories of hotel balconies with Daniel's distinctive watch visible on the table. Champagne flutes clinking at dinner. And selfies in what was unmistakably Daniel's office at Anderson & Rowe Capital. Taken long after work hours. Maya scrolled through the photos grimly. She's practically signing a confession. Maya muttered, forwarding each post to Emily's archive. She's tagging locations, times, even some of his clients in the background. This is all admissible evidence. Emily nodded, already organizing the screenshots into a timeline. Connecting transactions with social media proof, the perfect merger of digital breadcrumbs and financial fraud. Yet, the most explosive revelation came from a late-night phone call that left Emily cold. A hesitant voice introduced herself as Olivia Green, Sophia's ex-roommate. I don't know if I should be calling you, but you need to know. This isn't the first time they've done this. Olivia confessed. She explained how Daniel and Sophia had run this exact blackmail scheme on at least two other executives, wealthy men who had been seduced and trapped with compromising photos. Then extorted for silence. But this time, Olivia added, her voice shaking, Sophia actually fell for him. She broke the pattern, started posting about him like a real relationship. He wasn't supposed to get caught. Emily gripped the phone tighter, her mind spinning. So, Daniel wasn't just a cheating husband, he was a career con artist. Her hands trembled as she thanked Olivia and asked if she would be willing to share that information with authorities. Olivia agreed. I'm done covering for them. I just want this over. With everything mounting, financial records, social media posts, and now Olivia's testimony, Emily knew she was sitting on a bombshell that could obliterate Daniel's career and freedom. But first, she had to ensure her own financial security. The next morning, she walked into Rainier Bank, where she handled some of her firm's high net worth accounts. The branch manager, recognizing her immediately, ushered her into a private room. I need to freeze all joint accounts under Emily and Daniel Carter. Effective immediately. And I want to move my personal assets into a secure, separate account under my name only. The manager didn't ask questions. Within an hour, Emily had cut Daniel off from their shared finances, ensuring he would be caught unaware when he tried to pay for another round of luxury at her expense. As a final touch, Emily called Linda Porter, HR director at Anderson & Rowe Capital, an old contact from previous corporate compliance work. Linda, this is sensitive, but I need to report a serious breach of company policy involving Daniel and his assistant, Sophia Blake. Linda's tone turned sharp. You're serious? Emily calmly relayed the highlights, the romantic relationship, documented through social media, in violation of strict anti-fraternization rules. She left out the embezzlement. For now, knowing the internal audit would uncover that soon enough. I'm sending you proof, Emily said, already hitting send on a zip file of screenshots. You'll want to see this before it goes any further. Linda's response was measured but concerned. This will have to go to the top. I'll be escalating it to Richard Rowe directly. By that evening, Emily sat at her dining table, glass of wine untouched, staring at the growing stack of evidence. She wasn't a woman broken by betrayal, she was preparing for war. Daniel still thought he was safe, sending her cute little updates from his camping trip. He had no idea that while he toasted champagne in Maui, his entire empire was crumbling beneath him. And the woman he thought was sitting quietly at home was the one bringing it down. As another message from him popped up on her screen, missing you. Can't wait to tell you all about it when I'm back. Emily allowed herself a cold smile. Oh, Daniel, she thought. You'll be telling everything. Just not to me, to the FBI. By the following morning, Emily Carter's carefully orchestrated plan was in full motion. Daniel still had no idea that every lie, every dollar stolen, every kiss captured online had already become part of a meticulously built case against him. While sipping her coffee in the sleek kitchen of her now locked-down home, Emily reviewed the final version of her evidence packet before forwarding it to Richard Rowe, Daniel's boss and co-founder of Anderson and Rowe Capital, along with a formal complaint to Linda Porter Within the hour, her phone rang, Richard himself on the line, his voice unusually strained. Emily, we need to talk. Are you saying Daniel is having an affair with his assistant and violating firm policy? His tone shifted from skeptical to serious as Emily calmly confirmed. It's much worse than an affair. He's embezzling client funds to pay for their trips, gifts, and more. I've included initial evidence in the file I sent, and there's more where that came from. Richard was silent for a moment before he sighed heavily. I'll have to bring in the internal auditors and our legal team. This is serious. But Emily wasn't finished. With years of corporate fraud cases under her belt, she knew Daniel's scheme went deeper than anyone suspected. She called Agent Monroe, a contact from the FBI's white-collar crimes division, whom she'd once worked with on a corporate client's case. Agent Monroe, I have reason to believe my husband and his assistant are engaged in a large-scale fraud scheme that might involve blackmail of other executives, Emily said, her voice steady and professional. She explained the fake business expenses, the hidden offshore account, and the social media proof. I've gathered documentation, bank records, and even testimony from someone who claims they've done this before. Agent Monroe listened carefully, then replied, We'll need everything you've got. If what you're saying is true, this could be a federal case. While the FBI initiated a preliminary investigation, the fallout within Anderson and Rowe had already begun. Daniel, still oblivious, was lounging poolside in Maui when his company's forensic accounting team began digging into client accounts linked to his department. It didn't take long before they uncovered discrepancies, missing funds, suspicious wire transfers, and inflated expenses, all of which led straight to Daniel's login credentials. Linda called Emily back that afternoon, her voice unusually tense. Emily, we've pulled Daniel's internal records and travel expenses. There's a lot we can't explain. Richard wants to meet with him the moment he's back. But Emily knew Daniel wouldn't be back anytime soon. He'd planned a 2-week escape from reality, which he thought would buy him time to reconnect with nature while continuing his double life. Maya texted Emily just as she was reviewing another batch of transactions. Check Sophia's latest post. You'll want to see this. Emily clicked the link and immediately felt her stomach twist. A photo of Daniel and Sophia on a yacht, champagne in hand, with the caption, Living Our Truth. No more lies. The irony was almost laughable. No more lies? Emily muttered, snapping a screenshot and forwarding it directly to Agent Monroe and Linda. Within minutes, Richard emailed Emily directly, We've launched a full internal audit. You were right to bring this to us. Thank you. But what Emily hadn't expected was how much bigger the scheme truly was. That evening, Maya arrived at Emily's house, visibly shaken, holding a manila folder thick with printed bank records. I think you need to see this, she said, spreading out statements showing huge transfers to foreign accounts, not just one, but several, linked to different companies Daniel had created on paper but never disclosed. He's been moving money out for over a year. Emily, this wasn't just to fund an affair, he's been setting up to leave. To disappear. Emily felt a cold wave of realization. Daniel hadn't just betrayed her, he'd been orchestrating a total life reset without her, draining their shared life for a future she wasn't part of. Fueled by a new level of determination, Emily made one final, tactical move before the storm hit. She called her home's locksmith, arranging for every lock in the house to be changed before Daniel could return. By nightfall, his belongings were packed into black trash bags, stacked neatly on the front porch. As she placed the final bag down, she affixed a handwritten note on top that read, Hope Maui was worth it. You'll need a new key and a good lawyer. Sitting on her couch, watching the sun set over Seattle's skyline. Emily's phone buzzed again, this time from Richard. "We've suspended Daniel. Pending investigation. HR and legal are coordinating with law enforcement." A small, satisfied smile touched her lips. Daniel had no idea his world was collapsing from every angle. He thought he was in control. But Emily was now the one pulling all the strings. And tomorrow, when Daniel tried to access their frozen accounts or explain himself to his firm, he would realize that the woman he'd underestimated was about to take him down completely. In the weeks following Daniel and Sophia's arrests, Emily Carter's life transformed in ways she hadn't imagined. What began as a personal nightmare became the foundation of her greatest triumph. Anderson and Rowe Capital, desperate to contain the fallout, had publicly thanked Emily for her role in exposing the fraud. And Richard Rowe himself had offered her the position of Chief Risk Officer, a role overseeing the firm's internal controls and fraud prevention strategies. But Emily, now fully aware of her own power, had other plans too. Alongside her new position, she launched her own consulting firm, specializing in helping companies detect and prevent internal fraud, a business born directly from the lessons her husband's betrayal had taught her. Clients poured in almost immediately, including several firms that had once been wary of hiring a woman in such a cutthroat financial sector. Now, they wanted the woman who had brought down $1 million fraud ring single-handedly. Though her professional life was soaring, Emily had taken steps to ensure her personal world was protected too. Her home was now fully secured, with new locks, an updated security system, and Daniel's name wiped from every property and account. When the divorce was finalized, it was swift and merciless, thanks to the mountain of evidence Emily had prepared. She walked away with everything she deserved, while Daniel, now facing 8 years in federal prison, was left with nothing but the consequences of his actions. Sophia, in a plea deal, received 5 years, her tearful courtroom apology falling on deaf ears as Emily sat composed. Unmoved, Judge Simmons had made it clear during sentencing that their actions had devastated lives, breached public trust, and would be punished accordingly. 1 week after the sentencing, a final letter arrived in the mail. Daniel's handwriting scrawled across the envelope. Emily didn't hesitate. She shredded it without reading a single word, watching as the paper strips fell like snow into the bin, a symbolic end to the chapter he no longer had the right to write. Some stories, she thought, don't deserve a final page. They deserve to be erased. Still, life had a way of surprising her. Olivia Green, Sophia's former roommate and the whistleblower who had helped unravel the scheme, reached out to Emily in person. Walking nervously into her sleek new office. "I heard you're consulting for companies now," Olivia said hesitantly. "I'm starting a small business, and after everything, I don't know who to trust with my finances. I thought maybe you could help me avoid what I didn't see with Sophia and Daniel." Emily studied her for a long moment, remembering how Olivia's courage had been a turning point in uncovering the truth. Slowly, she smiled. "First consultation is free," she said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. "Let's make sure what happened to me never happens to you." As days turned into weeks, Emily's reputation continued to grow, and her name was suddenly being whispered in corporate circles, the woman who brought down the Carter fraud scandal. New clients sought her out, grateful for someone who had lived through betrayal and had the sharp mind to protect their businesses from the same fate. Richard Rowe, now fully trusting her judgment, regularly sent high-profile cases her way, including those involving delicate internal investigations. One late evening, as Emily sat in her glass-walled corner office overlooking Seattle's glowing skyline, Maya Reynolds dropped by with takeout and a bottle of wine, a tradition they had formed in the wake of the scandal. "Heard Daniel tried to contact Richard from prison," Maya said, rolling her eyes. "Wanted him to convince you to visit or write back." Emily smiled faintly, swirling the wine in her glass. "And what did Richard say?" "Told him you were too busy running 2 successful businesses to answer prison mail." Emily laughed softly, a sound that felt lighter than it had in months. She turned to the window, watching the city that had once felt so suffocating, now gleaming with endless possibilities. "Perfect answer," she murmured, as she looked at her reflection in the glass, a woman no longer broken, But rebuilt stronger, Emily felt a quiet pride. Her career had never been just a hobby, as Daniel used to say. It had been her power, her shield, and in the end, her weapon. She had turned her darkest betrayal into the very thing that would define her legacy. And as she turned back to her desk, opening a new case file, she knew one thing for sure: she would never be underestimated again. The story of Emily Carter teaches a powerful lesson about resilience, self-worth, and the strength to fight back against betrayal. Instead of crumbling under deception, Emily uses her intelligence and professional skills to uncover the truth, protect herself, and seek justice. It shows that trust should never blind us to reality. And when faced with betrayal, we can reclaim power through strategy and courage. Ultimately, Emily's journey proves that even the deepest personal betrayal can be transformed into an opportunity for growth, empowerment, and a new beginning, reminding us to never underestimate our own strength.